was drunk all the time and kept trying to kiss me. This is like the best job I've ever had, honestly. It's fun, it's fast-paced, I like my coworkers, everybody's pretty cool. Honestly, this place is way better than a lot of other places I've worked. And I know that that's depressing. Like, I know that, man. I know that. But like, the first place I worked was so profoundly bad in every way. First of all, I worked a lot more than I work here, right? The first place I ever worked, I worked 80 hours a week. It was bad in many ways. At the time, I didn't really recognize it because I was pretty oblivious. I don't know if I've talked about this, but I was told, so I tend to wear skirts. I like to wear skirts because I find them less overwhelming in a sensory way. And when I got that job, I was told not to wear skirts because some people in the office found it provocative. I was like 18 when I got that job. I was actually 17 when I got that job. So I didn't realize that this was like sexual harassment, right? I didn't realize that being told like, we can't see your knees or we'll think bad thoughts, even though all of my coworkers wore shorts all the time. I didn't realize that it was bad. So they had never had a woman work there full time before, but they had had an intern a few years before. And her name was, and I know this because I worked on some code that she'd written, right? So like I saw her name in anyway, everyone thought that her name was Melissa. I don't know why, but they just like had a joke about like not bothering to learn this girl's name. But then because I was also a girl, we looked nothing alike, by the way. Like we were not the same race. Everyone would call me Melissa, which wasn't even the name of the girl who'd worked there a few years before. It was the name that they would call her because they didn't want to bother learning her name. The guy who I reported to directly was in his 50s and married, and he wrote a really sexually explicit song about me that was revolting. Dude, the only HR call that ever happened when I was there was to me. I got called by HR because I was wearing skirts. And I want to be clear, like, I was wearing skirts that were quite conservative, right? Like, to the knee or longer. And then the person who was my mentor after that, I was assigned to work from his house during COVID, and he was drunk all the time and kept trying to kiss me. And also there was another guy who, he was living on his boat because he had beaten up his wife really bad and she had kicked him out of the house. I think the police had ordered him out of the house, but then he still writes to me. It's been years. Every year on you know, around the holidays, he writes to me and he's like, "Hey Ellie, you want to come out and see my boat?" Every year. I've never wanted to see his boat. His name is Mike and I've never wanted to see his boat. And also the bathroom, this is the place where the bathroom was okay, so there were two bathrooms because it was a building made for a normal company, but they had only ever employed one woman and only for a few months, and then me. So the bathroom, the women's bathroom, the deal was just that it was there weren't like lights in there, and it was where they mostly stored stuff, but it was also out of courtesy where the guys would go if they had to take like a really bad poop so that no one else would have to deal with it. But then I started working there. You know, they were like, "Okay, it's Ellie's bathroom now," which I didn't want my own bathroom. That's weird as well. But then instead, like, they just kept doing that. I would just like be in there with the lights off, like with my phone flashlight, like trying to see where everything was, you know, like trying to step over all the boxes. And like a guy that I worked with would just like come in and just drop the worst dump that ever happened. And I'd just, you know, be there, man. I'd just be there. So what I want to say is, honestly, like, people talk about like, "Oh, Ellie, this job sounds really bad." And I'm like, guys, this job is great. Jobs are bad. Jobs are really bad, but like, I don't know. This job is totally doable. I kind of like it. All my coworkers are chill. Anyway, yeah. I don't know. And so what I think is like, Ellie Baudelaire with a series of unfortunate events. Honestly, here's the thing. That's not that unfortunate. That's not that unusual for tech companies. It's just not, you know? They're not great. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really expect my job to be like amazing in every way. This is the thing, is college was similar. I don't know. Like, that's kind of just the state of the industry. And I don't hate it. And they pay me very well here, and I don't hate it. And those are my requirements. And I get to work with robots, and robots is cool. What would present Ellie advice be for that Ellie at that time? I don't know. I don't know what I would have said to myself that I would have heard. At that time in my life, you know, I really wasn't doing very well, and COVID was pretty rough. So I don't know what I would tell myself. I think one thing that I would tell myself is like, hey, it's not your fault that people are weird about your legs. That's not on you. I think that's what I would tell myself.